got one foot in the financial industry, but you've got another foot out trying to understand and see and experience the world and change the world.
Yeah.
And as much as anything, that first foot, we need to move that whole environment into a very different place.
I'm very glad you asked that question, because part of the reason why I wanted to go into business is I felt like I didn't understand it. I felt like it had so much control and power over everything happening, and I didn't know anything about it. I actually first decided that I wanted to go into finance was when I was actually in Washington, and I was working for, at that time, was the Office of Homeland Security, which later became the Department of Homeland Security. And part of the job was the consolidation of all these different departments, and which meant consolidating budgets and all this stuff. And it was like eyes glazing over. I just didn't understand it. And I understood at that point that, you know what, policy is all about prioritization. Prioritization is all about budgeting. And budgeting is all about understanding how all these puppets are moved. And that's when I said, you know what, I've got to get a better understanding of how this works. And then not only get an understanding of how this works, then how you can use that knowledge to figure out how you can change it and how to make it work for more people. How to actually fundamentally create a system that works for everybody. Because the challenge that we have now is that you have so many people who are being left behind. And it's not even left behind, they're not even starting with you. They're starting at a lower place, and then there's never any type of accelerator to help them give them opportunity.
They don't know there's a starting line.
They don't even know there's a starting line. They don't even know they're in a race in the first place. And so being able to understand the systems, being able to understand our interconnectivity, being able to understand how exactly this whole process of life and this process of our nation works is incredibly important as we look to shape what that final product should look like. I think we saw in the past couple of years with the whole happenings with the whole financial crisis. Part of the frustrating thing for me was actually watching the reaction to it, because you realize how many people and lawmakers like, and again, there are a good many lawmakers who I have the utmost respect for. And there are also many who I realized had no idea what they were talking about. Didn't even understand the basics, the fundamentals of it. And that's why I said, you know what, if we're going to be part of a larger solution, if we're going to be part of something that can actually figure this stuff out and make it work, we've got to know. We've got to understand. We've got to know the language. We've got to know the vocabulary. We've got to know the games that are being played.
And you got to know the players.
And you got to know the players. And so these were all factors that kind of went into my thought process in terms of, what are the skill sets? What do you want in your toolkit when it's time for you to go out into battle? And I wanted to make sure that I had the proper tools. I had the proper weapons at my ready, that when it's time to go into battle, that you knew exactly you're prepared for it. And that's why I think that being able to look around the impacts that decisions are having, not just how the decisions are being made, but the impacts that they're having on communities all over our country become incredibly important, because I think that's the point when you realize just how huge and all-encompassing these challenges are, but also just how huge and all-encompassing the solutions to the challenges must be. That it's not going to come from one person or one group. It's not going to come from one entity or one section of a community. It's going to come from everybody, because the problems are so large.
And it starts with, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women...
That's right. Are created equal. And it also goes back to our national slogan of E pluribus unum, is out of many, one.
Wes Moore, we thank you.
Thank you.